You know, every organization is looking for that strategic advantage, that secret weapon that helps them see around corners and jump on opportunities. But where do you find that kind of game-changing insight? Well, today we're going to dive into exactly that, how to build a team of experts that can seriously supercharge your success. And we're going to start with a story about what happens when you get it disastrously wrong.
First, let's just talk about a number. $9 billion. That was the mind-boggling valuation of a company called Theranos. They promised to completely change healthcare, all with just a single drop of blood.
Yeah, that revolution, it never happened. Back in 2015, the whole thing started to unravel. The technology was exposed as a complete fraud, and that $9 billion company just collapsed. It became one of the biggest, most spectacular failures in recent memory.
And this quote from the medical journal that helped bring the whole thing down, it just hits the nail on the head. How did so many smart people get it so wrong? How could they not see the difference between a $9 billion game changer and a $9 fantasy?
It's the big question, right? And the answer holds a really powerful lesson for any organization out there, whether you're a startup or a global giant.
The story of Theranos is a massive cautionary tale. And the fatal flaw, the real root of the problem, wasn't just in the lab, it was in the boardroom.
I mean, just look at who was on their board. It was packed with huge names: Henry Kissinger, Jim Mattis, people with incredible influence. But here's the kicker. Almost none of them had any real experience in healthcare or the science of blood testing. They just didn't have the expertise to ask the tough, necessary questions.
And this is exactly where the whole concept of an advisory board comes into play. It's a structure that's specifically designed to fill those critical knowledge gaps, but without you having to totally overhaul your company's leadership.
So what is it exactly? Well, an advisory board is basically a formal group of experts that you bring together to give you strategic advice. And the key phrase here is non-binding. They're there to guide you, to challenge you, but not to govern you.
Okay, this is a really important distinction to make. A board of directors has serious legal fiduciary duties. They make decisions that are legally binding. An advisory board, though, it's much more flexible. Its only job is to provide that expert insight, to be a sounding board. You get access to all this incredible expertise without the heavy legal baggage of a formal governance board.
All right, so you're on board with the idea. That's great. But now, how do you actually find the right people? Because it's not just about collecting impressive resumes. It's about finding the right expertise and, just as importantly, the right personality fit.
First things first, you have to learn the lesson from Theranos. This is non-negotiable. You need people with deep, specific knowledge of your industry. They get the nuances, they can spot the hidden landmines, and they can help you make decisions based on real insight, not just guesswork.
You also want people who are doers, people who are action-oriented. A big name looks great on your website, sure, but you need advisors who are going to roll up their sleeves, get involved, and help you turn big ideas into actual, concrete steps. You want a participant, not just a passenger.
Oh, and this one is so important. The best advisors don't just show up and give you all the answers. They have a coaching mindset. They ask those powerful, sometimes difficult questions that really challenge your assumptions and force you to think in new ways. They help guide you to the right solution.
And whatever you do, do not overlook the power of diversity. And listen, this isn't just about optics or feeling good. The data is crystal clear. One study found that businesses with diverse boards are a whopping 43% more likely to see higher profits. Different perspectives literally translate to better financial results.
So you have to be intentional about this. A great way to do it is to think across different dimensions. Make sure you have gender balance. Actively look for people outside your core industry to bring in fresh eyes. And try to get a mix of ages. That blend of seasoned wisdom and younger, disruptive thinking can be pure magic. That diversity of thought is a huge competitive advantage.
Okay, so you found your dream team. That's awesome. But that's really only half the battle. Now you need a structure, a process, to make sure the board actually delivers value. You can have a room full of geniuses, but if it's not organized, it's just chaos.
There's a really great model for this, a proven framework for success. The main takeaway here is that you need balance across 3 core areas. You need a clear purpose. Why are we here? You need a disciplined process. How do we operate? And you need the right people in the room. When those 3 things are in sync, the board becomes an incredibly powerful asset.
Building on that framework, there are a few key strategies you want to follow. And honestly, it all starts with number 1, define the purpose. Why does this board even exist? What specific problem are you asking them to help you solve? If you get that right, everything else flows from it. And I think number 7 is just as important. Evaluate and refine. You have to constantly ask, is this working? Are we getting value? And you have to be willing to make changes. That keeps the board fresh and effective.
So this brings us to a super practical question. We're talking about top-tier experts, right? Their time is incredibly valuable. So how are you supposed to compensate them fairly?
Well, you've actually got a few options here. The most common route is just a simple fee for each meeting they attend. An annual retainer is also pretty popular, especially for the board's chair. Now, if you're an early-stage startup without a ton of cash, offering a small amount of equity can be a fantastic way to get them invested in your success. The trick is to find the model that really fits your company stage and your goals.
So here's the bottom line. When you build an advisory board thoughtfully, with the right people, a really clear purpose, and a disciplined process, it can be an absolute game changer. It gives you the kind of strategic guidance that can help you avoid disasters like Theranos and instead accelerate real, sustainable growth.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought. Think about your own organization, your own goals, your own challenges, and ask yourself this: who are the experts, the brilliant minds, the coaches that aren't in the room with you yet, but who could be the key to helping you get where you want to go?